Before his official win was announced, Trump stressing unity in an address to supporters in Palm Beach last night. The former president's victory was made possible in part thanks to strength in battleground states. And as of this morning, Trump is projected to win 7 key swing states. Of those, Trump won only one of them in 2020, and that was North Carolina. Joining us now for more, we've got EJ Dionne, Brookings Institution Senior Fellow in Governance Studies, also a columnist at the Washington Post. EJ, it's great to have you on this morning. We didn't know what this election result was going to be, and I know that you didn't necessarily know it either. What happened here? What did the polling get wrong, and what did the consensus view going into this election get wrong?
In the interest of truth and punditry, I got it wrong. I did not expect this outcome. In fact, the polling did pretty well. The polling showed the kind of numbers we saw quite consistently. And I think in retrospect, it's easy to say in retrospect, there were a bunch of numbers staring us in the face that help explain what happened. The Republican pollster Whit Ayers, in presentations he was giving before the election, showed a slide that had 3 numbers on it. One was the average inflation under Trump and Biden, 1% under Trump, 5% under Biden. Interest rates, Trump and Biden, 3%, 6%. Market basket of food, $100, $125. All of this was not economic, but I think that these inflation in particular and this general unease about people's living standards, the cost of living, explained a lot about how Trump won. 67% of the people in the exit poll said that the economy was not so good or poor, and they voted by better than 2-1 for Trump. And so I think despite the fact that by so many of the numbers that you guys talk about all the time, we have what the economists called, the envy of the world economy in the U.S. right now. There were a lot of people out there who weren't feeling that. And we're going to have big debates after going forward about, was Trump's ad against trans people very effective? How much did immigration play in this race? And all those things are true. But I think there was just a set of underlying facts that made it very hard for Harris to penetrate. The other was attitudes toward President Biden. Some of us think he actually has done a good job as president. The American people clearly don't think so. In the exit poll, 40% approved his performance, 58% disapproved. Those are very hard numbers for an incumbent vice president to fight, it turns out.
So, EJ, moving this forward, talking about the fact that inflation, the economy seemed to be a deciding factor, was a deciding factor for many voters this past election. Looking ahead, 2 years from now, 4 years from now, how does the Democratic Party then, I guess, change the messaging surrounding that, given the fact that they weren't able to mobilize the base that maybe they thought they were going to, given what you were talking about, that a lot of the numbers on the economy were still quite strong?
I think there are going to be, first of all, Democrats are very good at recriminations, and we're going to see a whole lot of that going forward. I think you can go back a couple of years in the Biden administration, they tried to sort of brag about Bidenomics and talk about the good things it did. I think that campaign will, in retrospect, and I thought it might work at the time. So again, I don't want to pretend to be all-seeing on this, but it didn't work very well. And I think they needed to join the economic argument in a different way earlier on. I think that Harris tried to show the risks of the Trump economic plan, in particular, the risks of the high tariffs he promises, the risks of mass deportations, put aside how inhumane that could end up being and the importance of resisting, sweeping expulsions of people like that. Could have a very negative effect on the economy by reducing the size of the workforce. I think that Harris tried, but in retrospect, they should have done a better job of highlighting those risks. But I think it was just a significant part of the country that was in an unusually sour mood that Trump's advertising, I looked at a reel of Trump's advertising over the weekend. They were very effective in stoking and taking advantage of discontent out there. Trump did not run a very disciplined campaign himself. His advisors ran a heck of a disciplined media campaign.
EJ Dionne, unfortunately, we have to leave it there. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us here this morning. It's Brookings Institution Senior Fellow in Governance Studies and columnist at the Washington Post.
Great to be with you. Thanks.
Thanks, EJ.